Here we are trying out the new Tremont Street bike lanes in Boston. They've got a cool combination of materials going on here to build the bike lane. A lot of it is going to be these precast concrete blocks and the tough curb delineators. At the intersections, they have some of these concrete and curb islands for pedestrian crossing, probably for bus stops as well. But to save cost and keep that drainage in place along the existing curb, they're just using these precast blocks as a way to keep cars out of the bike lane, but maintain the existing asphalt without having to build new curbs and everything. As you can see, this is where the old parking lane used to be with that S-curve in the curb. So the parking is now floating parking. The term floating parking means the parking is not right along the curb. And instead the bike lane's along the curb with a buffer to the parking, so that bikes aren't being squished between parked vehicles and moving vehicles in kind of the traditional bike lane design. So here's a brick and curb island at the intersection. So where the old parking lane used to end, the bike lane bends back in too. Part of it is because they just didn't want to redo the corner, but sometimes having a bend in on the bike lane makes bikes at the intersection more visible to turning cars. You can either do a bend in or a bend out, like they do in the Netherlands. So here we have a section, I don't know if this is permanent or not, but now we're in a typical traditional style bike lane in the door zone. There might have been some reason why they were keeping it here instead. So here there's no dedicated bike signals. Separate turn signals. So it's kind of a turning vehicles yield situation. We have the pedestrian phase. That was a leading pedestrian interval for the pedestrians before the green light comes on for everyone else. Some more temporary / semi-permanent installation here. So with the bike lane being set back a little bit, it's not the worst thing in the world if cars have to, make one stop first behind the bike lane and then creep out before entering the vehicle lane. There is still enough space to get by. That's why for bend outs or offset crossings like this, the recommended amount is usually around 15 feet to accommodate one car length waiting, with the bikes being able to pass behind. We got raised crossings on the side streets to help slow people down. That was a raised pedestrian crossing we just went over to get people onto the island for the bus stop. We like having that no turn on red restriction, so that when pedestrians are crossing, we don't have cars trying to turn right across their phase. Here's another raised pedestrian crosswalk. It's also an accessible parking space, so there's a ramp for people using wheelchairs to get up onto the island and then across the crosswalk onto the sidewalk. Some of the newer guidelines need accessible parking spaces to be a lot bigger than standard spaces, so people have room to get out and get whatever mobility device they're needing. See these little tiny circular islands right after the big curb island. That's kind of the protected corner element of a typical protected intersection. Doesn't take much to build it, but provides a lot of turn calming for vehicles and helps protect the bike lane. And that seems to be about it.